Okay, so here's your review of the study guide, CFA 2 Types of Energy. It's a little messy because I took some notes on it just to kind of save some time. We're going to do the back fully together. I'm going to review what we have for notes here. Where would you find the most and least potential and most and least kinetic energy of a rock rolling down a hill? Remember, most potential and least kinetic are actually the same spot. Least potential and most kinetic are the same spot. That being said, top of the hill has your most potential energy, so it has your least kinetic energy. Roll on down, whoop, most kinetic energy, least potential energy. It's all the way at the ground, so that's going to be how that one works out. Explain in complete sentences why a Hot Wheels car stops after going down a ramp, even if it does not collide or run into anything. And many of you knew that's because it's of an outside force. That outside force is called friction. So the potential energy converts to other forms, mainly kinetic energy, but also heat from friction. Friction is the thing that fully slows it down. Create a claim of how potential energy and kinetic energy change from the rock rolling down the hill of question 1. Make sure to write in complete sentences and use evidence from class to support your claim. The potential energy of the rock at the top of the hill changes to kinetic energy as it rolls down. This is the same as what we saw with the Hot Wheels lab. So not the best sentences necessarily, but it does use evidence from class. It is complete sentences, periods, capital letters, spaces. Some of you forget that when you're typing your answers, so just to kind of keep that in mind. How do windmills and dams create energy? What type of energy do they take in, and what type of energy do they put out? Dams and windmills turn turbines. They take in kinetic energy of wind or water, and they create potential electrical energy. So that one is one that you should know. Potential electrical energy, I know, is a little bit of a tricky concept. Potentially in the background right now, you can actually hear my furnace running. It's not because it's hot, it's because the fan in the furnace is running my air conditioner. Or it's not because it's cold, I should say. It is because it's hot. And so that electricity that comes into the furnace, it's constantly there ready to come in. And so that's potential energy. Now that the furnace is running, a fan is turning to blow wind all over my house, and that's kinetic energy. Which has more kinetic energy? A 150 kilogram linebacker going 15 meters per second, or the quarterback he is trying to sack, who's 97 kilograms and going 30 meters per second? How do you know? Make sure to explain in complete sentences and use information provided as evidence. So I'm not actually going to write the sentences part, but I'm going to show you how to do the math. We did talk about how kinetic energy we find by that formula of the mass times the velocity squared. And so we see that here. Velocity squared times mass. So velocity times mass. And so our linebacker is moving 15 meters per second squared at 150 kilograms. He's going to create 3,300,750 joules. You don't need to write that part in, but that is the unit for it. Our quarterback, he's moving faster, but he's smaller. But the speed is what makes the big difference. So he's actually got a ton more power, 87,300. You need to go ahead and explain that in complete sentences, because that is where the question is on the test. So that's the front side. I'm going to flip it over, so you'll see just a quick gap. Backside, I think, is a little easier, and so that's why I was just going to go ahead and do this one together, because there were a few questions on that. So put these into the chart, potential energy and kinetic energy. This is what you should have done for the You've Got Potential lab, a potential and kinetic energy chart. A skydiver about to jump from the plane. So if he's about to jump, has not yet, we're going to put our skydiver here. Michael Jordan shooting a jump shot. So MJ's jumper. Okay. A bottle of Gatorade. We talked about this in class. It has chemical potential energy. And a runaway train. Some of you weren't sure what that was. Asked me about it in class on Monday. Basically, think about like a roller coaster or the train at Great America if it had no brakes. It just keeps going. So, runaway train. Fill in the energy flow diagram for a hopping grasshopper. I had a couple of you actually stand up and hop in class to understand how this would work. Your input, you have a grasshopper who's just standing here. and he looks like a sheep. So the input is potential energy of grasshopper. Describe the process. Grasshopper extends his legs with kinetic energy to jump. Okay, desired result. Grasshopper moves. Other products. Grass moves. And a small amount of heat is generated. And wind blows from grasshopper. This part here, diagram only if necessary. It's exactly the same as this. Describe the process, input, desired result, other products. Exactly the same. Last one, list as many types of energies as you can that we talked about and give an example of each. We talked about a bunch of these. So potential, start with your potential and kinetic. That should be the easy. So rock at the top of the hill. Rock rolling downhill. To punch someone in the face. Because Dwayne Johnson is the Rock. We talked about the Gatorade up at the top. Gatorade is chemical energy. Talked about electricity a bunch. And so just any appliance is an example. Refrigerator, furnace, any appliance you can think of, a toaster. Heat, stove. There were a few other energies in the notes from the other day, so you could write down any of those as well. But this gets you a gist of what you need, and we're at 8 minutes. That should be more than enough to kind of touch on specific things to study for the test. Test will look just like this, except with slightly different questions and slightly easier. There's actually pictures for this question. There's actually a diagram for this question. It's already drawn in for you. I think that one of these is also multiple choice. Yeah, this one's multiple choice. How do windmills create energy? So the test is easier. I always make the study guide a little harder. If you know the study guide, you can do the test. Good luck. Test Wednesday.